But the first thing and the first principle accomplish, and specific literally means one thing. You can answer this question or you didn't do it. That is specific. The level of specificity is even more important when you're for creative projects. So I think I'll use the book as an example. I think write a book is specific, but in my case, write a 50,000 word book delivered by March 14th to Post Hill Press. That is a very specific timeline. We're already introducing some other elements, and it also tells me exactly what I want to accomplish. So write a book. It's specific, but it's really just a starting point. So that's probably the first and honestly most important part, and it's where most goal setting goes wrong, especially if you're beginning this for the first time, because often that sounds like I want to be more present. There's no measurable. Was I more present or not more present? There's not really an easy way to measure that. That's first one. So that is specific. The next one is measurable. It's an old corporate phrase, but I love it. You can't manage what you can't measure, this is the quantifying part for the quant nerds. So income is a big one here. So like, I'd like to earn more money than I did last year. Not particularly effective. Brian, you've already introduced a measure in income. Like, I would like to earn $5,000 additional this quarter, or I would like to earn $10,000 this month. Having a specific number that you can measure, that is the extent of how measurable the goal is. So again, specific is either black or white. You did it or you didn't do it. Measurable is how and the extent to which you can measure what your goal is.
And keep in mind, a thing that I like is oftentimes you can't guarantee an outcome, but you can guarantee your at-bats at it. For example, yes. I can't tell you whether or not 6 months from now you'll be able to bench press 200 pounds. But I can tell you that you can measure whether you made sure to do bench day 3 times a week, every single week for the entire year.
Yep. It's huge. It's huge. In fact, that's I always this part is most important probably for fitness goals in particular. Like if you're working towards a weight loss goal, figuring out what your measurement mechanism is and what works for you personally, because stepping on the scale every day, spoiler, doesn't work for a lot of people. You forget, it may not be very trackable. Maybe it's Lose It. Maybe it's a calorie tracker like Lose It or MyFitnessPal. That could be the measure of like, every day I'm going to do this. Measurable means you have a way of tracking it.
Yeah. And by the way, I like tracking, because tracking implies not just that you're measuring one time, but tracking means you have a data point over time. A story is told, like a literal Apache tracker would look at footprints and tell you the story of whether the person is injured, what they were carrying, why they're limping, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. There is a story that reveals itself in all these data points. That's what we want in our measurable, so that when we look back, when we have that looking at the mountain range, we could see that was the part that made possible this other thing. That was the part where I went the wrong way, but then eventually course corrected.
Yes, and that habit tracking particularly, it's a James Clear thing that's been popularized from Atomic Habits, and it's so important. And there really are, if I'll take this brief side joint for a second, there are really 2 types of goals. It's either achievement or it's a habit goal. And I prefer, you can blend the 2, or one can cause the other, but those are the 2. You have the final outcome. The advantage to achievement goals is they're usually more exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They're usually like, there's a race that you run. There is a weight that you hit in time for the wedding. Like, those usually are most motivating, but often they're the least effective at keeping consistently. So if you've had, especially over and over, like this is your 3rd year in a row, like I don't even want to set a weight loss goal. I do this every year. It never works. Often that's because you haven't implemented a habit portion of the goal. You just have the end state in mind for the achievement goal.
Interesting. All right. So smart, specific, measurable. What's next?
Actionable is our next. So every goal should start with an action verb. I think just in basic principles, it should be quit. It should be run, finish, eliminate. Like these are action verbs. Like a bad goal would be like, I'd like to be more consistent with my live streams on Modern Rogue. Not going to be actionable. But I will go live with vMix at this time every day, every weekday. You know, that is going to be an actionable. It's both actionable and it's also a habit. So you'll kind of see
understand even what we are doing right now, these office hours sessions, in order to allow this to be the community college with the fluorescent lights on, I make sure to set expectations very low. I don't call it life-changing time with Brian Brushwood. I call it office hours. And the first words out of my mouth are, remember when your professor would just do whatever he was going to do anyway, but you were allowed to show up and ask questions? That's it. And if it becomes something else, it'll do so over time. But the point is, now we're in a comfortable lane where I could keep on doing this forever because I've got to, this is all literally work I got to do regardless. And it's just a little bit of extra calories to be doing a one-man band during all of this in front of everyone. But the point is, we've built a structure that is repeatable over time, that over the long haul, like the rivulet that eventually carves out the Grand Canyon, over time can have big changes.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's a really good illustration. And then the next one, Brian, is where I'm changing things up. I'm actually I'm stealing this straight from Michael Hyatt in Full Focus. When we get to the R in SMART, he calls it risky, and I actually like that a lot. It's the idea of a goal that stretches, doesn't seem out of reach, but something that feels risky. So this is where I think the full system is called SMARTer, and just to be like the TLDR is that like risky is the first new concept. And then we end with time bound, which makes sense. There should be a date by which you accomplish it. And then the final ER, SMARTer, is exciting and relevant. When you have an exciting and risky, those are the two elements that Michael Hyatt adds to the traditional framework. When you have an exciting and risky goal, it is so much more motivating than something that's just something you feel like you should do or feels safe and comfortable. If you write down a goal and you're like, yeah, that sounds about right, you're not doing it right. It should be like a little bit of like, okay, I feel a little sense of motivation, a little sense of like increased heart rate, excitement that I'm taking a risk here, but it shouldn't be like fear or like, all right, this is completely impossible. It's not feasible. And that's like the full framework that I like to use when I'm setting goals for the new year.
So on relevant, is that a backronym to essentially say congruent with like unpack relevant for me?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, because relevant is the single word that ties back to the beginning of our conversation. And you can only have a goal that's relevant to you if you've defined what your values are or what's important to you in this season of life. So I've seen in the chat of like, I saw an earlier post of like, hey, I'm working 2 jobs right now. I'm really at a season where I haven't been able to prioritize connection with my family. So a goal a value, you just communicated something you value that you're not experiencing, which is more quality time with your family. That's a beacon. That's telling you when you set a goal what is it going to be relevant. If you're like, I want to set a goal to increase my performance review at the 2 jobs, that's not going to be relevant to you because that's not where your heart's calling you in terms of your own values of what you want to prioritize.
So and I guess we talked a bit about internal versus external validation.
Yeah,
I guess that feels to me, and you could correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but as kind of a checklist to do afterwards is a once over, like make all your goals like this and then ask how many of these are external validation, how many of these are for internal validations.
I was going to initially say no, because I really think the value setting exercise is valuable to do at the beginning. But I think, to be honest, Brian, not to like just go off the cuff here, I think you're right, especially if you've never had that, which is most people, this was me until last year, you've never actually like written down, I think Strawberry.me does this, like they'll work with you to write, what are my values? Like if I asked you now, Brian, not to like suddenly interrogate you, But do you have like specific values that you've written down, or something that you kind of keep in your head
I
of the things that are most important to you?
I'm in a bit of a weird place in that I keep such a public diary. I don't think I'm very hard to figure out if you listen to much of the content that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like you've heard me in various live streams say things like, you know, what broke my heart when I lost my brother was not the half empty bottles of Jack Daniels. It was the half completed promises that he punched out, leaving unfinished. So like that is a core value to a fault. I mean, we've talked a bit about this. You know, I packed on some pounds and did a number on my health in my commitment to make the Founders Day Eclipse event work. And you know, it ended up taking a year and a half to undo the health damage of being overly Ahab-like fixated on that. And that would be a case where it's possible for your goals to get away from you, for you to get a blinder on that. But you know, now I'm at the part where it's like, hey, let's all acknowledge that something truly once in a lifetime happens. You landed the plane, and the party happened, and now we're on to the next. So we could be in the past, fixated on that, or we could be in the future. A strange thought experiment that I started engaging in is, imagine 5 minutes ago, you were a celestial being pressing a button for the world's greatest roller coaster, Humanity the Ride. Then the only rule is you don't get to know when or where or who you're going to pop into. But if you did play it, wherever you ended up, you just got here. First thing you're going to do is do an inventory. And so for me, it was very clarifying to say, all right, I just got here. I appear to be an aging out body. Ooh, this is neat. I'm in the wealthiest civilization in the wealthiest time of all of humanity. That's a good pull. Body looks to be a little bit of a fixer-upper. You got something called retirement. I don't know what that is, but it seems like it's resources. Maybe I could divert some of that to cause this hardware to improve. And then once you start playing your own life like a real-time strategy game, and you have no value judgments, no narratives that you're tied to, no I woulds, but I just have to, like, give yourself, just as a thought experiment for a minute, pretend you're new management and you just got here. Whatever happened, and I'll close the loop on this, Macaulay Culkin refers to his time as a child like that's not him, but he is the beneficiary of that inheritance. He's very thankful for the inheritance he's got. His ability to fill theaters nowadays is based on his ability to tell good stories and be, as a man, an interesting person, but it is derived from, the door was opened from his inheritance of being a cog in a big machine that made him a popular, beloved face doing an owl face on a poster. My point being, you are not your resume. You are not your past. You, at all times, can decide you just got here. And then these goals are the kind of games you can play as you sketch out a plan for what next.
It is. And I'm such a nerd. I can't help myself. But it's the literal definition of what Luke Skywalker does in the original Star Wars film, because there's this moment, the homestead burns down, he's out of options, and if you'll just rewind just like 15 minutes in the film, Luke had a dream. He wanted to go off to the Imperial Academy, be a cool TIE fighter pilot. He wanted to be Top Gun in Star Wars. He didn't have the context. He didn't have this hero's journey of defeating the dark side or saving the universe. Like, none of that was there for Luke. But he makes this decision, and he finally answers the call when faced with his burning homestead moment. And it's not like, well, I guess now's my chance to go to the Imperial Academy. He's challenged. I want to become a Jedi. I want to learn the ways of the Force like my father before me. And it's so simple, but it's so beautiful, and it's so funny. Like, you watch these scenes as a kid, or the twin sunsets, and like just this iconography of what it means to, like, again, zoom out. I love the RTS view, because you could literally do that do that with Luke Skywalker of like, all right, well, the homestead is burned. There's no more Tashi Station. There's no more moisture evaporators to attend to. You go off to the academy, or this old wizard's offering you this interesting opportunity. Are you gonna take this, what starts as a side quest? And that's where the burning homestead moment. You can interrogate your past to look for these motivating moments that tell you a little bit about who you are. And this is where I believe in Geeky Stoics, is that these stories that we grew up with that we love actually tell us that. Andrew Main, I was trying to like, how do I talk about this book? And he was gracious enough. We were chatting, and he's like, I had this phrase like, your favorite stories are telling you something. And that was like my phrase for the book. But Andrew said it better. Like, these stories tell you who you are. They tell you a specific something. I printed this because I think, if nothing else, it illustrates, if we were to like recall Riley's life. We have an illustrator working on some elements, but this is like a simple pencil sketch of like the first chapter of the book. But it's that idea, like that there was me, like always for 7 years of my life working in dark windowless government buildings, but in the back of my mind was always just like the twin sunset in the background, like that idea of knowing there's something out there is the starting point. Finding that something, the real-time strategy piece, looking at your life, like that's the exciting part. That's the fun part. That's why I love this time of year. So sorry, I get a little passionate about this stuff.
No, this is great. And now at this point, we want to pull out. Oftentimes, this is the part where you start jotting down things and you start to see it. You start to see the possibility of a different level of your own performance and excellence, and you begin to demystify the steps in between here and there. You begin the working backwards exercise. There's some moment where you're getting the trophy, or where the audience is standing and applauding, or you sign the document for that first house or whatever, and then be in that moment. Give yourself a moment to first person shooter, be in that moment and remember back what happened just before that. If you're accepting an award, who are you thanking and why? And fill in the gaps. Go ahead and auto-complete all of that, but that'll give you clues. For example, part of the whole reason when, I like to, part of the reason I changed the set that I have is so I could point to these trophies back here. I never thought much of them because they were in the before times, before the internet started providing real data about what I was able to do in terms of reach and storytelling or whatever. But before any of that, the only way to know if you were a good magician or not was to go compete in these large magic competitions. They were very serious deals. They would run all day, and the audience it was a big deal if you're a judge. They were anonymous, and then they would rank and rate in points, and if you won, that became the kind of thing that you could put on a piece of paper and then get yourself booked, and then more people would see your show, and so on and so on. So I knew I had a good magic show, but I was trying to picture, okay, I'm on stage, a lot of people are watching me. What are some of the stories that I've told? And I knew that everybody I respected in magic at some point had done a lot of street performing. And so I was like, great, I'll be able to get the reps, I'll do the polish, everything will get better and better over time. And then you throw yourself into, so that revealed by remembering backwards, starting in the future, they're remembering back, where did I learn how to be this good? Oh, that's right. I put myself in a position to do something very hard that was outside of my comfort zone. And when I realized, like, the nice thing about performing on the street was you didn't have to ask permission. Not even from the cops. If the cops chased you off, that was also the part of the story that everybody told. And so it's like, there's nothing to stop you from going, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. That's so true. I love it. And that visualization, especially when you think of, often there are these people that we look up to, fictional or otherwise, that that tell us a bit of that story. And to your point of like looking at your heroes in magic, they all have these sort of common experiences that you can chase after, which is much more relevant to you in the early stage of your career versus just trying to immediately get on the Tonight Show. Like, that's not how it works.
Right. Well, and that's just it, is you can ask the question of, in order for me to do blank, who are they looking for? And that's part of the reason that Scam School came to be. Is I had a failed TV pitch that through I would like to think no fault of my own. I just watched a bunch of mid decisions happen around me, and I didn't know that they were as dumb as they looked. And so they got a very bland, boring pitch, and they passed on it. And I thought, and I was mad. I was like, okay, I want to host a TV show. I was like, what's the first thing that they're going to look for in a host? They want somebody who's already hosted a TV show. And it's like, well, I can't do that. But there is this thing of online video. YouTube is the thing, I guess. And of course, you know, there was 8 different competitors at the time. But I was like, okay, what do I have? What I have is a fully booked fall schedule. And on the way, there's always these 2 to 3 hour blocks where I have to zoom in and out, where I have to move my body from point A to point B. You know, if I wadded up some t-shirts in the corners of this car and I stuck in a camera here and a camera there, maybe we could hit record for 3 minutes at a time and get little vignettes and have adventures on the road. And so I began doing Brian Brushwood on the road in 320 by 240, very low resolution. A few thousand people watched them, but most of the value was in having done it. There is nothing more powerful than the difference between hypothesizing how it might go in the future and remembering how it went in the past. And when you go from 0 to 1, then that is the biggest difference that it makes. So my point being, yep. I think I meandered into the fields here. What we want is, with that specific measurable stuff, is break it down into those bite-sized, start with the forever future thing, remember backwards for the adventures that built the skills. How did I get so good? And then answer that question and then solve for it. And then eventually work your way back to present tense you and bridge that gap between you and the gym.
Yeah. No, I think I'll actually use my own experience as an example here. So I'm going to, let me grab it over here. I have this sheet. So I was deployed last year. I was in these United Arab Emirates. So over Christmas and New Year's, I was in my little hooch at Al Dhafar Air Base, and I wrote these draft goals. Now, the biggest one was the one that I had failed. I made a video about this on the channel, but it was a half Ironman. That's been a dream of mine for better part of 3, really almost 4 years. And I had signed up for not 1, not 2, 3 different Ironmans. I looked 3 different Ironmans across 2 different Air Force assignments. And what had always happened is that the demands of the day job dwarfed my own ambition and my own commitment to my goal. And so while I was deployed at that last year, where I made the decision to not chase what was best for professional recognition, which is another high ops tempo, high deployment assignment, I chose the current assignment I'm at, which is teaching at the leadership school at Maxwell Air Force Base. And that allowed me to, and I knew I would have the schedule to, practically speaking, make a smarter goal related to achieving what I had failed to achieve for 2 years previous, which is running a half Ironman. It's interesting. I'm going to actually, I'll read it off. So this was probably late December last year, about this time last year, my Q4 quest, as I called it. On December 7th, 2025, I will successfully complete the La Quinta Ironman injury-free by following this 20-week training program. I hyperlinked the Google Doc to my training plan. Throughout the 3rd and 4th quarter, I will never miss more than 2 workouts in a row. So I had a calendar of workouts. I had a habit, so I was going to allow myself to I can miss any workout. Any given week, I can miss a workout. I've got 5 to 6 training days a week. It's okay if I miss 1. Never going to miss 2. And that, I figured out what motivated me, of like, if I did the I will never miss a workout, that would never face real life effectively. So that is how I got specific and measurable to me in terms of exciting and relevant. That this goal was sort of like my FU to my previous life. It was my I am changing my priorities, even if it means less quote unquote professional success and what I should do in my Air Force career. I'm going to carve out more time for my priorities creatively, and then obviously for this big fitness goal. Because Brian, as you well know, these things, these races, when you train for them, kind of all consuming. What's funny is I failed that goal, like effectively. I did not run that race. A buddy of mine texted me who's done 3 of these and said, "Hey, I know you're interested in this Ironman thing. You want to come up to North Carolina in October and we'll do it?" And I was like, "Well, crap." And that was the last missing piece. And the reason I say that is that what you're doing right now is not the gospel. It's the starting point. I did not run the La Quinta Ironman. I did not go to California. That was the race I was looking at. But just by putting it out there, and by connecting with a friend who had shared ambitions, who'd done this before, finding a fellow traveler, I actually ran a different race earlier in the year. So my year last year was insane. I was deployed through March, got back R&R, moved to a new duty station, started a new job, started a training program, and ran the Ironman in North Carolina. And the only reason I did that was not just because the goal setting is the technical, right, smarter framework. It was because it was most aligned or most relevant, is the language we use, with what I truly cared about. I was actually finally making it a priority instead of like, no, I can do this. I can go to in the military. I can go to weapons school and take these assignments and deploy again, and also still run an Ironman. That's do it now. You have to choose. You choose your regret. I always like that phrase. You will always have regrets in life. Choose your regrets.
Yeah. So the way I think of it, it's a bit too morbid for me, but I've heard that some people love to read obituaries because it makes them think in terms of like, am I living the kind of life that they would write this kind of stuff? And here's the world's boringest obituary. He did this, and then he won at this, and then he won at this, and then this next thing was clearly easy enough for him. And what really gets said is at no point did he reach beyond his own arm length. You know, it's like he never reached beyond his domain, and he never flexed and failed. And is that a very interesting story? Personally, I don't think so. It's like it's that Tyler Durden. What, do you want to die with no scars on your body? Come on.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And only because it's painful and it took me 4 months to train for. I will answer Chris's question in the chat. It's a 2.2 mile swim. It is a half marathon and then a 50 kilometer bike. So it takes a minute. But it was fun. I had a great time. But it's one of those things that it was a bucket list for me, but it was so much more fun that I did it with a buddy of mine who I've known for 10 years and reconnect. It was our opportunity to reconnect. It was so much more meaningful than even what I was writing, theoretically when I was first setting the goal, where I just thought like I would be just doing it by myself. But yeah, no, it's so true.
Yeah. And I liked, there was one of the goals that you mentioned that risky. Let's double click on that. What I like about risky is genuinely hard. Do you have a chance of, I heard it once defined as, if you do everything right, is it still 50% chance you fail? Now
I like that.
We're doing something interesting. And you lived that with that Ironman, right? I mean, it's like you did everything right and it failed.
Yeah. I did everything right, and I pulled my left peroneus tendon halfway through the half marathon. So I ran the last 6 miles weirdly and awkwardly on the ball of my foot, stopping every mile to stretch out. But which my goal is I will run injury free. Ideal, you want to follow all of your training and have everything go perfectly. That definitely wasn't the case. But again, to your point, those are outside of your realm of control. I did everything right. But also, I'm not 24 anymore. I'm 34, and so these are just the risks you take with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, do you have a particular number of goals that you like?
I do.
Talk me through that.
I'm a big fan of 4. I like having one goal, and I will say this. This is it varies based on your stage of life, but especially from what I learned earlier in my career, where I would make 10, 12 big goals. it just splits your focus too much. And I think it removes the discipline, Brian, of what you're talking about, where you really just looked at your dreams and desires and say, what is going to be the thing that enables these? Because that's really where you focus down. I think 4 is the magic number. That's what I've done the last 2 years. That's what I'll be doing this year over the next 2 or 3 days, is like really distilling down. And I'm actually going to take this sheet of dreams and ideas and distill them down into like the actual smarter framework and choose my 4 goals. And I like having one per quarter, generally speaking. Like last year, obviously the 4th quarter was my Ironman goal. The 1st quarter was a weight loss goal. Spoiler, often the 1st quarter is that's when Riley likes to lock down. That's, it's dry January. It's the time to cut back. And spoiler, that's probably what my goal will be this year. I lost about 20 pounds during the deployment last year. And so I'd like to at least double down and overtake the couple that I've gained back throughout this year. It's like my nice January reset. But yeah, that's at least how I like to think of it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, let me give a counter to that. Part of the reason I like having lots of lists of goals is because I make sure once they are codified to place them in very important spots. 1, in the shower. In the shower. It's one of the few places, almost certainly, you're not on your damn device, where it's just you and your mind. And just tape it right up there on the side. It's the only thing you can read. So similar to like back before we had smartphones, if you had nothing to read in the bathroom, you would pick up a shampoo bottle just to read the ingredients of it. So it's like I want lots of goal setting, Brian, to be reflected upon in that dark bandwidth moment. And then second place I post it in the mirror right next to my face. Now that's where I want to see just 4 goals. I want in my peripheral vision, every time I look at my dumb mug, I want a reminder of what are we doing? Because goals are quite simply a written contract between present tense you and future you. That's all it is. There's the you that's playing the real-time strategy game, who said, yep, this battalion, you're going to go and face the enemy. You got it, boss. And then eventually you're going to hit that first-person shooter moment where you're going to be like, there's way too many of the enemy. What was past me thinking? And you will not have any excuse other than to try to survive that level. And then you're going to go back and be like, real-time strategy, Brian, what were you thinking? And it's like, yep, it's what we needed. We needed the scars. Let's keep on going.
I love that. It's Age of Empires 2, Brian, versus Call of Duty, Brian.
Yeah, and that's the frame of reference that I've used my entire life. I guess for the last 20 years since I quit my day job at Dell. It's like I made decisions like a real time, like I was playing Civilization, and then I executed on decisions. And I'll tell you what, man, it leads to some real bummers. Yeah, did you know that small rural communities in West Virginia will still actually throw fruit at your stage if they don't like your show? If you're a little bit too sarcastic and anti-traditional magic, they may not like that. It's incredible.
That's a good point. But I see Wago in the chat. Yeah.
Wago's asking if we could have the VOD. I believe all the VODs are available for rewatch. I think they always do. But if there's something in particular we need to do, just let me know on that. But I'll tell you what. Any other things on goals before we start plugging Geeky Stoics?
I'll give my parting shot, which is just an offer to you, Brian, and I think it goes to what Wago's saying. I think now's the time, taking the time at the new year to actually get started, actually writing down the goals. That's the thing. If you're watching this, please actually write it down. That's what makes the difference. It is actual magic.
I don't care about the quality. I don't care about the quality of the goal. I don't care about the quality of the handwriting. I don't care about the quality of the presentation. Just outside your brain. I'll know if you're serious if I hear the words about to, gonna, try. Those are all code words for not serious. Right, past tense verbs. I wrote, I spoke, I recorded, I posted. Those are real. Now you're playing the game, and we can judge whether you're playing it right or not. But what I have no tolerance for is a bunch of word salad that boils down to gonna try and think and feel and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no, that is so true. It is so true. So that's the principle. That's the most important thing to do. My offer to you, Brian, is I will gladly, and I think it would be great if we hop on here at office hours once a quarter, jump in at Q2, because that's what everyone forgets. This is the motivating time of year, but that is the other reason why I like a quarterly goal or a quarterly review, is that you're actually holding yourself accountable and giving yourself 3 more times throughout the year to like get excited about where you want your life to go, instead of just doing it at New Year's. I think that would be a great tradition we could do this year.
Okay, well then let's begin by challenging everybody to get other people in the same game with you, whether it's in the Mono Discord or do you have a Discord for Geeky Stoics?
We sure do. Yep, it's linked at the top of our YouTube channel. You'll find it there. Geeky Stoics. Search for us, find us. If there's one video, it's called Luke Skywalker and the Impossible Dream. I would recommend watching that one. I think it's the most relevant to our current conversation. And yeah, check it out. Appreciate you.
Super. All right, gang. Well, then I'm gonna take us out with that. That was too good. That was nice and easy. All right, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:30 sharp. I want those goals written. I want you bragging about them. I want you to tell me all about them. See you guys.